Hi friends, so today we'll be dealing with the second part of the fetal skull and maternal pelvis discussions. So today, as you can see, we'll be discussing the maternal pelvis. Now, the maternal pelvis we'll discuss in the terms of false pelvis and true pelvis. True pelvis is further divided into the inlet, the cavity and the outlet, right? So first of all, what are the joints in the maternal pelvis? One is the pubic symphysis. The symphysis pubis is a secondary fibrocartilaginous joint, while the sacroiliac joint is a synovial joint. Okay. Now, what is a false pelvis? False pelvis is basically what lies above the true pelvis in this between the iliac fossa. So, if I were to keep a paper like this, so what constitutes above this paper will be the false pelvis. So basically, it is composed of the lumbar vertebra that will be behind this, as you can imagine, the anterior abdominal wall and the iliac fossa, right? So this is the false pelvis. Now what comes below this is the true pelvis. Now it is divided into three parts, that is the inlet, the cavity and the outlet. So we'll be discussing these different parts in the terms of the AP diameter, the transverse and the oblique diameters, and also any clinical significance that we need to discuss. Okay, so first of all, we come to the inlet. Okay, so as we know, there are three anterior posterior diameter itself that we should know. One is the true AP diameter or the anatomical diameter, which is the sacral promontory, mid of the sacral promontory to the upper border of the pubic symphysis. So the sacral promontory, midpoint of the sacral promontory will always be the point that you will take when taking the AP diameter. The others will change, right? So when it is the midpoint of sacral promontory to the upper border of the pubic symphysis, it is the anatomical conjugate, which is around 11 centimeters, right? If it is the sacral promontory to the midpoint, I don't know if you can see this. If you can see this, the midpoint of the pubic symphysis. So if you can mark this as the midpoint of the pubic symphysis, from this to the sacral promontory, I'll try to show you. This to the sacral promontory will be the obstetric conjugate, right? So this is proving to be a bit tricky. So this midpoint of sacral promontory to the midpoint of the center part of the pubic symphysis, that is the obstetric conjugate, and it comes out to be nearly 10.5 centimeters. And if you come to the diagonal conjugate is basically the lowermost part of the pubic symphysis to the sacral promontory. So this is how you measure the diagonal conjugate, right? So this is how you measure the diagonal conjugate. Now the clinical significance here is that diagonal conjugate is the only one that you can measure clinically out of these three diameters. So the obstetric conjugate, which is our actual diameter that we need, is calculated as 1.5 centimeters deducted from the diagonal conjugate. So the diagonal conjugate is supposing taken to be 12 centimeters. So the obstetric conjugate will be 1 minus 5, that is around 10.5 centimeters. Okay, so that is our obstetric conjugate. Okay, so now we have dealt with the AP diameters, that was the anatomical diameter, the obstetric diameter and the diagonal conjugate. Fine. Now we come to the oblique diameter. Now the oblique diameter is basically from the sacroiliac joint of one part to the iliopubic eminence of the other, right? So if it is from the right sacroiliac joint to the iliopubic eminence, it will be the right oblique diameter. If it will be from the left sacroiliac joint to the iliopubic eminence, it will be the left oblique diameter, and this is taken to be 12 centimeters. So anatomical diameter 11 centimeter and oblique diameter as 12 centimeter. Finally, we come to the transverse diameters. So the transverse diameters will be the farthest point on the pelvic brim on the iliopectineal line will be the transverse diameter, that is the 13 centimeters. So 11, 12 and 13. Now the pelvic inlet has certain boundaries. I think I should have discussed that previously, but nonetheless, so what are the different parts of the boundaries of the pelvic brim are There are 9 points, right? So this is like 4 P's. Pubic symphysis, upper border of pubic symphysis, pubic crest, pubic tubercle, and pectineal line. Then iliopubic eminence, iliopectineal line, sacroiliac joint, ala of the sacrum, and the sacral promontory. We'll go over this again. The upper part of the pubic symphysis, pectineal line, pubic tubercle, pubic symphysis, pubic tubercle, pubic crest, pectineal line, iliopubic eminence, iliopectineal line, sacroiliac joint, ala of the sacrum, and finally the sacral promontory, right? So as I said, the transverse diameter were the farthest point on the iliopectineal line, and this is taken to be 13 centimeters. Now we have dealt with the diameters of the pelvic inlet. Now we'll come to the cavity. Now the cavity is bounded by the pelvic inlet above and the plane of the least pelvic dimension below. I'll discuss what is plane of least pelvic dimension, but so far you need to know that the cavity is between the pelvic inlet and the plane of the least pelvic dimension, right? Now the importance of the cavity is that it houses the plane of the greatest pelvic dimension, and it is a very important plane. Now coming to the diameters of the cavity, all the cavities diameters AP, oblique, and transverse is 12 centimeters. So it is easy to remember that. Okay. So we were discussing greatest pelvic dimension, right? So plane, that is the plane which is bounded by the pubic symphysis, that is the mid of the pubic symphysis at one point, and the junction of S2 and S3. Now as you can see over here, I've tried to mark, so the junction of S2 and S3 to the midpoint of the pubic symphysis, this will be the plane of greatest dimension, right? Why is this important? Is because if the station is at 0, supposing the leading point is at 0, that means the biparietal diameter is at this point, is at the plane of greatest pelvic dimension, right? And if we come to the plane of the least pelvic dimension, that is between the lower border of the pubic symphysis to the junction of S4 and S5, right? So this will be plane of least pelvic dimension, right? So plane of great pelvic dimension is between the midpoint of the pubic symphysis to the S2 and S3, and plane of least pelvic dimension is between the lowest border of the pubic symphysis to the S4 and S5. Okay, now that we have dealt with that, what is the importance of the least pelvic dimension? Basically, least pelvic dimension represents the ischial spine. That is the plane of the ischial spines. Okay. Now the interischial spine is basically taken to be around 10.5. As you can see over here, this is the ischial spine, right? This is the ischial spine. I hope this is clear to you. These 2 points you can see. So interischial spine is the distance between that should be 10.5 centimeters. And there's one posterior sagittal diameter. How do you measure that? So basically that is the distance between the midpoint of the interischial diameter and the distance from S4 to S5. Okay. So if I were to take this interischial spine and the distance between them, right? And if I was to measure the distance between this, the midpoint of this and S4, S5, that will give me the posterior sagittal diameter, and it should be 5 centimeters. This generally posterior sagittal diameter is generally posing a problem in android or anthropoid pelvis, wherein this will decide if the baby will deliver or not. Okay. So now I think we will be discussing some of the most important point that you will be asked in a maternal pelvis is the ischial spine. Now that we have come to that, what is the importance of ischial spine? Now there are five important points about ischial spine. First of all, it is the place where there is origin of levator ani. So the second importance will be it is the place where the internal rotation and engagement occurs. Third is it is the point of zero pelvic station. That is, if you are saying that the leading point is at zero station, that means it has come to the ischial spine. Fourth is that it is the level where you give the pudendal nerve block. And fifth is this is where the curve of Keyres becomes forward. So we'll discuss it later. The curve of Keyres is basically the direction of the birth canal, it is initially backward and downwards, and later it becomes forward. So ischial spine is the point wherein after that it becomes forward. Okay, so now that we have discussed the pelvic cavity and its different importance, we'll come to the pelvic outlet. Now, the pelvic outlet, also called as anatomical outlet, can be divided into, or rather the boundaries will be, as we discussed in the pelvic brim, there are boundaries of the pelvic outlet. So this will be pubic symphysis, the ischiopubic rami, the ischial tuberosity, if you can see over here, ischiopubic rami. So pubic symphysis, ischiopubic rami, ischial tuberosity, sacrotuberous ligament, and finally the sacrum. Not the coccyx, the sacrum. Okay. So pubic symphysis, ischiopubic rami, ischial tuberosity, sacrotuberous ligament, and the sacrum. That will be the pelvic outlet. And over here you will have the intertuberous diameter. So intertuberous diameter should be 11 centimeters, right? So you will see your obstetrician generally does some clinical assessment of the pelvis. She'll measure the pelvic, the diagonal conjugate, and she'll measure the intertuberous diameter. So how do you measure that? By putting the knuckles. If your 4 knuckles can fit into this diameter, that means it is the outlet is having enough room for the baby to come, right? And the third will be the subpubic arch that I'll discuss later. So the diagonal conjugate she measures it with the knuckles also. So this is the intertuberous diameter she's measuring. It should be 11 centimeters, right? Okay. And finally we'll discuss what is the obstetric outlet. So obstetric outlet is bounded above by the plane of least pelvic dimension and the pelvic outlet that we just discussed. That will be your obstetric outlet. Okay, so now we have discussed the outlet also. Now we'll discuss what will be the contracted pelvis. Contracted pelvis will be when the inlet, if the inlet is showing diagonal conjugate of less than 11 centimeters. Okay, or if the interischial or intertuberous diameter is less than 8. So interischial should be more than less than 8 will be a contracted cavity, and intertuberous less than 8 is contracted cavity. Okay, one thing I forgot to tell is we have discussed in the inlet that the anterior posterior is 11, oblique is 12, and the transverse is 13. The opposite you have in the outlet, right? So if the 13 was transverse, in the outlet 13 will be the AP diameter, right? And the oblique will be 12, and the transverse will be 11 centimeters. We have discussed intertuberous is 11, right? So transverse is 11, right? Oblique will be 12 and outlet will be 13 centimeters. Okay, so the opposite of the inlet. So you all can remember that oblique diameter is always 12 centimeters and cavity diameter is always 12 centimeters. So this is 11, 12 and 13, while over here it is 13, 12, 11. Okay. And I think I have discussed this. The last thing I want to discuss is the subpubic angle. Now this is the subpubic angle. It should be around 85 to 90 degrees angle. Okay, and if the angle is less than that, it is acute, then the the intertuberous distance will be lesser and the baby will have a problem getting out. Okay, so this is also known as waist space of Morris. Now if supposing the baby's head was coming out, right? So the distance you see between this subpubic arch and the head is known as waist space of Morris. Okay, so how do we define it as? It is said that if you keep a disc of 9.3 centimeters over here and there is a distance more than 1 centimeter between the disc and the subpubic arch, more than 1 centimeter, then you have to say that the waist space of Morris is much more and there will be difficulty for the baby to come out. So basically waist space of Morris is nothing but just telling the subpubic arch angle. If it is more acute, baby will have a problem getting out, right? So that is the waist space of Morris. So I hope you are clear about all the different parts of the pelvis, that is the inlet and the outlet and the cavity, and also what is the false pelvis and true pelvis. So I hope this was easy and it helps you to understand about the maternal pelvis. Bye-bye.